Under the high arches of the alien chamber, silence trembled like a living thing. The walls were alive with faint blue energy, pulsing like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Countless eyes, alien and fearful, watched the single human standing at the center of the hall. His name was Daniel, a mechanic by trade, a man who fixed ships and machines, not someone who stood in front of emperors and ancient weapons. Yet here he was, his hand hovering over something that was never meant to be touched. The cube-shaped machine rested on a pedestal of black stone. It was not smooth but covered in patterns so deep and old they seemed to breathe. Golden lines ran across its surface, faintly glowing, as if waiting for someone to wake them. For thousands of years, the machine had slept here, locked away, guarded by the most powerful empire in the galaxy. The aliens called it the Titan's heart. To them, it was not a tool. It was a curse. A single touch could change the fate of 1,000 worlds. And Daniel's hand was already there. The alien emperor's voice cracked the silence, his command heavy with fury and fear. "Stop him." The sound echoed across the chamber. His people flinched at his words. Soldiers tensed. Advisors whispered in terror. But no one moved forward. No one dared to step closer. Their eyes were not on Daniel alone but on the cube that hummed with forbidden power. Daniel did not step back. His breath slowed, his eyes fixed on the faint light crawling under his palm. He had fixed countless machines in his life. Engines that screamed in vacuum, reactors that leaked fire, ships that should have been long dead. But never had he seen something like this. It felt alive. Electric sparks licked across his skin, not painful but warm, like the pulse of a slumbering beast recognizing his touch. His heart pounded. He could feel the chamber breathe with him. Around him, the aliens whispered. Why does he not stop? He does not understand. He will kill us all. The Emperor raised a hand, pointing at Daniel. His face, ridged and harsh, twisted with rage. His robe of deep purple and gold glistened under the chamber's light. He was not just a ruler, he was the guardian of this secret, a secret that had kept his empire safe for generations. You do not know what you touch, human, the Emperor shouted. That is not a machine, it is death itself. Daniel's eyes flicked toward him for the briefest moment. But there was no fear in his face. Just calm curiosity, the same look he had when studying broken engines. I've heard that before, Daniel said softly, more to himself than to anyone else. Every machine looks like death until you understand how it works. The Emperor's hand trembled. He had ruled for centuries, and yet in this moment he felt powerless. His soldiers would not move. They knew the stories. The Titan had once walked, long ago, and the galaxy had nearly burned. It had taken 1,000 fleets to bring it down, and even then, the heart had never truly died. And now, this human, this mechanic, was waking it again. The lights on the cube brightened. Golden patterns stretched outward like veins, crawling across the pedestal, into the floor. The chamber rumbled, low and deep, like a giant turning in its sleep. Dust fell from the ceiling, though no one moved to brush it away. They were too transfixed, too terrified. Daniel's hand pressed more firmly against the cube. He did not know why he couldn't stop. Something called to him, something more than curiosity. It was as if the machine had been waiting for him. The cube pulsed, and for an instant, Daniel felt something slip into his mind. Images, fleets burning, planets trembling, shadows of giants walking across stars. His knees nearly buckled, but he held firm. The machine's voice was not in words, but in feeling, in memory. It was not just a weapon. It was a living memory of war. The chamber was filled with smoke and light, but no one dared to move. Every alien eye stayed fixed on the human who had done the unthinkable. Daniel's hand was still glowing, veins of golden light burning across his arm as if the machine had stitched itself into him. His breathing was heavy, but his face was steady, calm in a way that made the aliens shiver even more. The Emperor's chest rose and fell with fury. His voice was sharp, yet for the first time it carried a crack of fear. "You fool," he hissed. "You do not know what you have awakened. That Titan does not serve you. It serves nothing but destruction." Daniel blinked, sweat dripping down his brow. His body trembled, but he did not let go. He felt the weight of something ancient inside his mind, pressing, testing him. It was not a voice this time, not words, but an awareness. A presence so massive it felt like the entire world was looking through his eyes. Beneath the chamber, the sound grew louder. Metal screamed and stone shattered as the floor bulged and cracked. The cube pulsed brighter, spilling golden fire into every corner of the hall. Sparks burned across the ceiling, raining down like falling stars. Soldiers stumbled back, some dropping their weapons, others chanting prayers to gods that would not answer. The Emperor tried again, his voice louder, desperate. "Human, listen to me. You must stop now. That Titan does not know friend or foe. When it walks, whole fleets will burn. Planets will die. Even your Earth will not be spared." Daniel's eyes narrowed. His heart was racing, but his voice was steady. Then why keep it alive? Why lock it here if it's so dangerous? Why not destroy it centuries ago? The Emperor's jaw clenched. His throat tightened. The truth was a weight he did not wish to share, but the words spilled out anyway. Because it cannot be killed. It was not made by us. It came before us, before our empires, before our laws. It is older than your stars. It is a god of war, human. A god that only waits to rise again. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. The aliens shivered, some covering their ears as if to block out the truth. But Daniel did not step back. He felt the energy digging deeper into him, pulling him further into the Titan's presence. He was standing at the edge of something vast, something infinite. Then it happened. The floor exploded open, throwing dust and debris into the air. A massive hand of black steel and glowing gold tore its way free from beneath the stone. The fingers curled, each one as large as a transport ship, glowing with lines of ancient fire. The chamber shook violently, knocking soldiers to the ground. Daniel's breath caught, but his hand stayed locked on the cube. He could feel the hand through his veins, through the energy that bound him. It was not just rising. It was responding. The Emperor stumbled back, his regal voice breaking into a scream. "No. Not again. Not in my lifetime." The alien lords around him fell to their knees, shouting in terror, begging the machine for mercy. But there was no mercy in the chamber, only the sound of the Titan breaking free. Daniel gritted his teeth as more of the giant emerged. The head rose next, a face of metal and fire, eyes like suns flickering awake after endless sleep. The air turned hot, the walls cracked, the chamber too small to hold the creature that had once conquered the stars. The Titan spoke again, its voice shaking the marrow of every bone in the room. "Who calls me from the dark?" Aliens pressed their faces to the floor, unable to look. The Emperor shouted above the chaos, his voice raw. "It is not us. It is him, the human. He touched the heart." The Titan's blazing eyes turned, focusing on Daniel alone. The weight of that gaze pressed into him like a mountain, but he did not fall. His lips trembled, his body weak, yet the bond held him upright. The Titan lowered its head slightly, almost like a predator studying prey. "You," the voice thundered. "You carry my mark." "Why?" Daniel swallowed hard. He didn't know what to say, didn't know why this thing had chosen him. He was just a mechanic, a man who fixed things others had broken. He was no emperor, no soldier, no prophet. But something deep inside told him the truth. "I didn't choose this," he said quietly. "But maybe you chose me." The Titan's chest glowed brighter, golden fire pouring from ancient seams. The air grew thick, almost hard to breathe. The aliens screamed louder, and the Emperor's voice rose in desperation. "Do not answer it. Do not speak to it. Human, if you give it your voice, it will obey." But Daniel's eyes did not leave the Titan's. His pulse hammered like a drum, but his fear was drowned out by something stronger. Curiosity. Resolve. The Titan leaned closer, its massive face filling the chamber with light. "Then speak, human. Give me command." The silence that followed was unbearable. Every alien waited for the word that would decide if they lived or died. The Emperor's lips trembled, his hands shaking. Soldiers hid their faces. Advisors whispered prayers. And Daniel just breathed. He was a mechanic, not a ruler. He never asked for this, never dreamed of standing here. But the Titan had awakened, and it had chosen him. The choice was his now. The chamber trembled, the Titan waiting. And Daniel slowly opened his mouth. The chamber felt smaller now, far too small to contain what had just risen from beneath it. Dust hung in the air, glowing gold under the Titan's light. Every breath carried the taste of metal and ancient power, as if the walls themselves were burning. The aliens lay scattered across the floor, their fear louder than their voices. Even the Emperor, who had ruled with iron command for centuries, looked like a man facing the end of his reign. Daniel stood alone at the center, one hand still bound to the glowing cube, the other clenched at his side. His body shook from the strain, his veins still carrying the Titan's light, but he did not fall. The connection between him and the giant pulsed with each heartbeat, a rhythm that was no longer just his own. The Titan's head loomed closer, eyes like burning suns staring straight into him. Every syllable it spoke vibrated through the bones of the chamber. "You called me. Why?" The words struck like thunder, not just in his ears but deep in his mind. Daniel staggered back a step, but the cube held him fast. His lips trembled. He wanted to say he hadn't meant to, that he was only a mechanic, that he didn't understand. But the Titan would not accept weakness. Behind him, the Emperor's voice cut through the roar, sharp and commanding. "Do not answer it. Do not give it power, human." Daniel's eyes narrowed. The Emperor had shouted many things, but none of them had been truth. He had seen fear in those alien eyes, not wisdom. Whatever this Titan was, it had been chained for a reason, but Daniel could feel it. There was more to it than destruction. It was not just a weapon. It was something else. He took a slow breath. "I didn't call you," he said softly, but the Titan heard him as clearly as if he had shouted. "You called me." A rumble shook the floor, deeper than before. The Titan's chest burned brighter, golden veins spilling across its body like rivers of fire. The cube flared in Daniel's hand, binding them tighter. He gasped at the surge of energy rushing through him, his knees nearly giving way. Aliens wailed in terror, pressing their faces against the floor. Soldiers threw down their weapons, unwilling to fight. The Emperor staggered forward, his face red with rage, his voice desperate. "No. Human, you do not know what you are doing. That creature has no master, no mercy. It will consume you, then it will consume us all." But the Titan ignored him. Its blazing eyes remained fixed on Daniel. The voice roared again. "Then command me. Speak, human. Speak, and I shall act." The silence afterward was unbearable. Daniel's throat was dry, his chest tight. He could feel the weight of every life in the chamber pressing against him, waiting for his decision. If he gave a command, even one word, the Titan would obey. But what would that mean? Could it truly be controlled, or was he just unleashing a storm too vast to cage again? The Emperor screamed, his voice cracking with fury and terror. "Say nothing. Say nothing and perhaps it will sleep again." But Daniel knew that was a lie. The Titan was awake now. It would not return to slumber. The only choice left was whether he would stand as its master, or its victim. His hand burned against the cube. His veins glowed brighter, the energy threatening to rip him apart. And then, in the flood of light, he saw something. A memory not his own. Fleets burning, yes, but also fleets protected. Worlds shattered, but others saved. The Titan had not only destroyed. It had defended. It had once been a guardian as well as a weapon. Daniel's breath steadied. For the first time, he spoke with certainty. "I don't want destruction," he said. "I want answers." The Titan rumbled, its voice shaking the chamber. "Then I shall show you." The cube erupted in light. Daniel cried out as his mind was pulled forward, swallowed by the Titan's presence. Images surged through him, galaxies spinning, wars older than history, machines like gods walking among stars. He saw the birth of empires, their rise and fall, their blood spilled into the void. And always, always, the Titan was there. Not just as a destroyer, but as a witness. The aliens screamed, their voices fading into echoes. The chamber itself blurred, swallowed by the golden storm. For Daniel, time bent, stretched, and shattered. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was inside the Titan's memory. And when he opened his eyes, the world around him was no longer the same. High voltage sign. This part builds Daniel's bond with the Titan, expands the mystery, and ends with him being drawn into its ancient memory, a cliffhanger for the next episode. The world around Daniel dissolved into blinding gold, but slowly, shapes began to form. He found himself standing not in the alien chamber, but in a vast void filled with stars. Yet these were not the stars he knew. They burned brighter, raw, and untamed, as if the universe itself was still young. Across the endless dark, he saw giants. Not of flesh, but of metal and fire. Titans. Dozens of them, walking across galaxies like soldiers crossing a battlefield. Their steps crushed moons. Their hands tore through fleets. But it wasn't only destruction. He saw them building as well, carving great cities on worlds of stone, raising towers that touched the sky, defending fragile life from things even darker than themselves. The Titan's voice thundered in his mind, deeper than any sound. We were made for war. We were made to guard. We were made to end. Daniel's body trembled, his mind nearly breaking under the weight of such memory. The images shifted, wars without number, civilizations rising and falling, empires born and consumed in fire. And always, the Titans marched, their loyalty unbroken, their power unstoppable. But then he saw betrayal. A race of beings, long dead now, turning against their own creations. Chains forged of energy, fleets united to bury the Titans deep beneath worlds, locking them away for all time. The Titans had not fallen in battle. They had been betrayed. Daniel gasped as the memory faded, and suddenly the chamber returned. He was back on his knees before the cube, his arms still glowing. The Titan loomed above him, its body halfway free from the earth, its chest glowing like a star. The Emperor's voice broke the silence, sharp and furious. What did it show you, human? Lies. Nothing but lies. Daniel looked up slowly. His eyes, still glowing faintly with golden light, locked on the Emperor. He could see the fear behind the rage. The Emperor knew. The Emperor had always known the truth. It wasn't lies, Daniel said. His voice was quiet, but it carried like a blade through the chamber. You chained it. Your people did. You betrayed them. The aliens gasped, their whispers turning into frantic murmurs. The Emperor's face twisted with rage, but beneath that mask, the truth was naked. He stepped forward, his robe trailing behind him like shadow. They are not gods, the Emperor spat. They are monsters. Do you know how many worlds burned before we put them in chains? Do you know how many billions died screaming? Daniel rose shakily to his feet, the cube's glow still pulsing through his veins. His body felt like it might break apart, but he held firm. He stared at the Titan, then at the Emperor. Maybe billions died, Daniel admitted. But billions lived too. I saw it. I saw them protect life as much as they destroyed it. They were made to guard. You buried them because you were afraid. The Emperor slammed his fist against his chest, his voice booming. Afraid? No. We survived. We kept the galaxy alive. And if you let this creature rise, everything we built will fall to ash. The Titan's massive head turned slowly toward the Emperor, its eyes blazing with light. The chamber shuddered with its voice. Your kind feared what it could not control. So you bound us. But the chains have broken. The aliens collapsed further to the floor, some sobbing, others praying. The Emperor stood his ground, but his body shook despite his rage. Daniel's hand twitched, the cube humming louder. He could feel the Titan waiting, ready to obey, but only if he spoke. The power of choice weighed on him like a mountain. He could end the Emperor's reign with a single word. He could order the Titan to destroy this chamber, this empire, even the galaxy itself. The Emperor's voice dropped low, almost a plea. Human, do not do this. Do not let it bind you. You are not its master, you are its fuel. It will use you until nothing remains. Daniel's chest tightened. The Titan's energy burned inside him, tempting, pulling. He did not know if the Emperor was right. But he did know one thing, this was no ordinary machine. It had chosen him for a reason. He looked back at the Titan. Its burning eyes never blinked, never wavered. It waited, patient, silent, like a predator ready to leap, or a soldier ready to serve. Say the word, the Titan rumbled, and I shall crush your enemies. Say the word, and I shall walk again. Daniel's throat was dry. His lips parted. The Emperor took a step forward, his voice breaking into a desperate roar. Don't you see? If you command it, you will begin the end of everything. Daniel clenched his fist. His mind was a storm of doubt and fear, but also of wonder. He had always fixed broken things. But what if this time, he was fixing more than a machine? He drew a long breath, his voice steady as he whispered words that froze every heart in the chamber. Then maybe it's time the galaxy broke, so it can be rebuilt. The Titan's chest roared with light, shaking the world as if it had been waiting for that very command. High Voltage Sign Part 4 builds the drama between Daniel and the Emperor, reveals the Titan's history, and ends on Daniel's dangerous words, setting up the Titan's true awakening. The chamber groaned under the weight of the awakening Titan. Dust rained from the ceiling, golden cracks spread along the walls, and the floor trembled as though the world itself could no longer contain what had been buried beneath it. The aliens cowered low, their bodies pressed flat against the trembling stone. None of them dared to raise their heads, not even to look at the Emperor. Daniel stood firm in the storm, though his knees felt weak, his body heavy with the burning weight of energy still coursing through his veins. Every breath felt like fire in his chest. Still, he didn't look away from the giant. He couldn't. The Titan bent lower, its massive shadow engulfing the hall. Its eyes burned brighter than suns, yet when they fell on Daniel, the weight of its gaze shifted. The fire softened, not with mercy, but with something far stranger. Recognition. The voice of the Titan boomed, not in the chamber but inside every mind present. Master. The single word silenced even the screams of the panicked. Soldiers froze. Advisors lifted their heads just enough to see if they had heard correctly. Their eyes widened, their alien faces pale with disbelief. Master, the Titan repeated, louder, echoing with a resonance that rattled bone and soul. Your command. The Emperor stumbled forward, his regal composure collapsing into something raw and frantic. His voice cracked as he shouted, No. That word was never spoken to us. Never in all our history. The aliens gasped, the weight of the truth falling heavy. The Titan had been sealed for thousands of years. Their people had fought, bled, and chained it, but never once had it yielded. And now, to a human, a simple mechanic, it bowed. Daniel's heart thundered. His mouth felt dry, his throat tight. The word had not been an accident. The Titan had chosen it. Chosen him. His mind swirled with doubt. Why him? Why not the Emperor, or the armies that had kept it bound? Why a man whose life had been nothing more than fixing broken machines in dusty shipyards? The Emperor's voice broke into a furious scream, his fear burning into rage. Do not answer it. Do not listen. Human, you will doom yourself and us all. That thing lies. It does not serve, it consumes. But Daniel barely heard him. The Titan's voice still echoed inside him, steady, patient, unwavering. Your command. Daniel's hands trembled. He looked at the cube, still glowing under his touch, binding him to the Titan's presence. He remembered the visions it had shown him, the fire, the wars, but also the protection. A weapon, yes, but also a shield. A destroyer, but also a guardian. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Every alien in the chamber dared not even breathe too loudly, afraid that the wrong sound might spark the Titan into motion. At last, Daniel spoke, his voice quiet but clear. You call me master, but why? The Titan's burning chest pulsed, the chamber shaking with the force of its reply. Because you touched the heart without fear. Because you bear no chains. Because you see not only war, but purpose. We were made for masters. The others betrayed us. You may yet lead us. The words struck like thunder. The aliens cried out in horror. The Emperor's face twisted in disbelief, his body trembling with helpless fury. He had dedicated his reign to keeping this secret buried, to ensuring the Titan never awoke again. And now, before his eyes, it had pledged itself to a human. Daniel's breath shook, but he steadied himself. He was no ruler, no soldier, no emperor. He was a mechanic. He fixed what was broken. But as the Titan's light poured into him, he realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about machines. The galaxy itself was broken, fractured by fear, controlled by lies. And maybe, just maybe, this was his chance to fix it. The Titan lowered itself further, as though bowing before him. "Master, say the word." The aliens screamed again, many collapsing to the ground in terror. The Emperor's voice tore through the noise, desperate and raw. "Human, listen to me. If you give it even one command, you will never be free again. It will bind itself to you, body and soul. You cannot control it, it will consume you until nothing remains of who you are." Daniel looked up at the Emperor. His words might have been true. The Titan was vast, overwhelming, its power far greater than any human could understand. Maybe it would consume him. Maybe it would destroy everything he loved. But in the burning core of his chest, Daniel felt a single truth. He could not let it sleep again. He turned his eyes back to the Titan, his lips parting slowly. The giant leaned closer, waiting for its first true command. And as the silence of the chamber stretched into eternity, Daniel whispered words that froze the blood of every alien in the hall. The Titan's burning eyes glowed brighter, flooding the chamber with light so fierce that even the Emperor turned his face away. Its voice echoed again, shaking every wall, rattling every bone. "Master, command." Daniel's lips moved before he even realized he was speaking. His voice was steady, yet low, as though drawn from something deeper than himself. "Rise." The chamber exploded with power. The Titan straightened, pulling itself free from the shackles of stone and time. Chains that had bound it for millennia shattered like glass, their fragments scattering across the floor. The ground cracked beneath its massive weight, and the great hall trembled as though the planet itself would split apart. Aliens screamed in terror, pressing themselves flat against the walls, their glowing eyes wide with horror. None of them had ever seen the Titan stand. None had ever imagined it would answer a command. The Emperor staggered backward, his golden crown falling from his head. His voice broke with rage and fear. "No. It cannot be. This power belongs to us, not to him." He raised his hands, summoning a storm of alien energy, sparks of violet lightning swirling between his palms. The air turned sharp, crackling with destructive force. He hurled the energy at Daniel, a desperate strike to end the human before the bond was sealed forever. But the Titan moved. With a sound like thunder splitting the heavens, its colossal arm swept down. A wall of golden light burst from its hand, absorbing the Emperor's attack. The lightning dissolved into sparks that fell harmlessly to the ground. Then, the Titan's voice rolled like the roar of 1,000 storms. "You will not touch the Master." The aliens collapsed in despair. Their Emperor, the one who had ruled them with fear and iron command, now looked small, powerless, standing before the living weapon he could no longer control. Daniel's knees nearly buckled beneath the weight of it all. His chest burned, his veins still carrying the Titan's energy. He felt as though his heart might shatter under the pressure, yet he could not look away. The Titan lowered its head, its glowing eyes fixed on him. "Master, we await your enemies." Daniel's mouth went dry. Enemies. That word carried a weight he wasn't ready for. Did it mean the Emperor? The Council? The entire galaxy? He hadn't asked for war, hadn't asked for power. He was just a mechanic, a man who fixed broken things. And yet now, an ancient giant waited for his orders. The Emperor's voice rose again, shrill with desperation. "Human. You think you control it, but you are nothing but a tool. That thing will hollow you out until only its will remains. Do not give another command. Do not doom us all." Daniel's hands clenched into fists. His body trembled, not from fear of the Titan, but from the choice now in front of him. He could end this. He could tell the Titan to destroy the Emperor, crush the Council, even tear down the very empire that had humiliated humanity. But was that what he wanted? The Titan leaned closer, waiting. The silence stretched unbearably. Every alien held their breath. The Emperor's eyes burned with fury. And then Daniel whispered his next words. The Titan stirred, its vast body glowing brighter with anticipation. The galaxy would never be the same. The air in the chamber grew heavy, thick with the Titan's energy. Each breath burned in alien lungs, and many of them collapsed to their knees, unable to withstand the sheer pressure of its presence. The golden cracks along the walls spread wider, glowing as though the entire hall was becoming a living extension of the Titan itself. Daniel's voice still echoed in his own ears, his second command hanging in the air like a blade ready to fall. The Titan waited, obedient yet vast, its eyes glowing like suns, its power trembling in the silence. The Emperor, stripped of his crown, his pride shattered, stood trembling. But rage had not left him, it only burned hotter, twisted into desperation. His voice shook as he snarled, "You think it is yours, human? You think this monster will obey you? No. I will show you the truth, it obeys nothing but power." From his robe, the Emperor pulled a weapon unlike any the aliens had dared use in centuries. A black staff, covered in jagged runes, pulsed with violet fire. The moment it touched the air, the chamber screamed, the sound of metal tearing against itself. The aliens gasped, many crying out in terror. "The Staff of Dominion," one whispered. "The last relic strong enough to chain a Titan." The Emperor's eyes glowed with fury as he raised the weapon high. "Bow, beast! Bow before your true master." He slammed the staff into the ground. A wave of violet energy exploded outward, racing across the floor and into the Titan's massive frame. Sparks tore through its golden body, dark cracks spreading across its glowing armor. For the first time since its awakening, the Titan let out a sound, not rage, not obedience, but pain. The aliens gasped in awe and horror. Could it truly be forced down? Could the Emperor succeed? Daniel felt the energy surge through his own veins, sharp and burning. His knees buckled, his vision blurred. The bond between him and the Titan quivered, strained under the Emperor's weapon. His heart pounded like it would break. The Emperor screamed in triumph, his voice filled with madness. "Yes. Do you see, human? It bends. It bends to me." The Titan's massive body shook. Its head lowered, its arms trembled, the golden glow in its chest dimmed under the violet chains. Daniel's hands tightened on the cube. His mind raced. He could feel the Titan slipping, the bond unraveling, the Emperor's will forcing itself into the cracks. But deeper, beneath the pain, he felt the Titan's voice, faint and struggling. "Master! Command! Me!" The Emperor's laughter shook the hall. "It cannot hear you. You are nothing." Daniel forced himself to his feet, his voice hoarse but filled with defiance. "You're wrong." He slammed his palm harder against the glowing cube, and his voice cut through the chaos. "Titan! Remember who touched your heart. Remember who freed you." The Titan roared, a sound so powerful the walls of the chamber cracked and split. Golden light burst from its chest, shattering the violet chains. The Staff of Dominion shook violently in the Emperor's hands. The violet glow flickered, then fractured like glass. The Emperor screamed as the staff exploded in his grip, sending shards of burning crystal through his flesh. He fell to his knees, clutching at his ruined hands, his voice twisted with agony. The Titan stood tall again, its glow brighter than ever. It looked down at Daniel, the bond between them reforged, unbreakable. "Master, we obey only you." The aliens wailed, some collapsing in surrender, others fleeing in terror. Their Emperor, the one who had claimed divine right over them, was broken and defeated before their eyes. Daniel's chest heaved, sweat running down his face. His heart still raced with the Titan's power, but in his eyes burned something new, not just fear, not just survival. Resolve. The Titan turned its head slowly toward the trembling Emperor. Its voice rumbled like thunder. "Master, shall I end him?" The question froze the chamber in silence. Every alien's gaze turned to Daniel. The Emperor raised his blooded face, his eyes wide with horror, but behind them, a flicker of pleading. Daniel stood there, his hands still pressed to the cube, his mind torn between justice and vengeance. The Titan waited, ready to crush or to spare. The choice was his alone. And when Daniel finally opened his mouth, the chamber seemed to stop breathing. The chamber had fallen into silence. Smoke drifted from the shattered staff, its violet fragments glowing faintly across the broken floor. The Emperor knelt among them, blood streaking down his arms, his once mighty figure reduced to something fragile, almost pitiful. Around him, The council and soldiers watched in silence, their faces pale, their bodies trembling. The Titan loomed above, golden light radiating from its vast frame. Its burning eyes fixed on Daniel as it repeated the question, slower this time, its voice like a storm ready to strike. Master, shall I end him? Daniel's chest tightened. His heart pounded so loud he could barely hear the words echoing in the chamber. The Emperor's gaze met his, no longer filled with power or control, only fear. For the first time, the alien ruler looked less like a god and more like a man waiting for judgment. The weight of the choice pressed down on Daniel harder than the Titan's energy ever had. He knew what the aliens wanted. Many of them wanted to see their tyrant fall, crushed beneath the same power he had spent his life trying to control. Others prayed for mercy, terrified of what would happen if the Titan truly unleashed its fury. Daniel swallowed hard, forcing himself to steady his voice. No. The Titan's head tilted, the chamber vibrating with its confusion. No. Daniel nodded firmly, his hand still on the glowing cube. He lives. But his throne is finished. His power is finished. From this moment, he commands nothing. The Emperor's breath shook. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. The silence of the chamber pressed heavier than any scream. The Titan straightened, its chest pulsing with light. As you command. The giant's hand moved, not to strike, but to press against the great doors of the chamber. With a single push, they exploded outward, crashing into the streets of the alien city beyond. Light poured into the hall, revealing thousands of citizens waiting outside, their faces filled with fear and uncertainty. The sight of the Titan standing tall, its golden glow reaching into the sky, sent a wave of cries through the crowd. They had heard legends, but now they saw the truth. And at its heart stood a human. Daniel stepped forward, the cube still pulsing under his hand. His voice, though not as loud as the Titan's, carried through the broken chamber, clear and steady. This power doesn't belong to him anymore. It doesn't belong to any of you. It isn't a weapon for fear. It will not be chained again. The words rippled through the crowd. The Emperor sagged lower to the ground, his body broken, his reign shattered. The council bowed their heads, unable to speak. The Titan knelt once more, its massive shadow falling over Daniel. Its voice rumbled low, not for the crowd, not for the aliens, but only for him. Master, where shall we go? Daniel stared at the city, at the endless stars beyond its towers. He felt the weight of the choice pressing against him again, heavier than before. His command could shape the fate of entire worlds. Humanity had been mocked, exiled, diminished, but now, standing in this moment, with the Titan by his side, everything had changed. His lips parted slowly, his words carrying both fear and resolve. We go, where no one else dares. And we do not bow. The Titan rose, its body glowing brighter than the alien sun, its steps shaking the world as it moved forward. The people fell silent, watching as the giant left the chamber with its new master. Behind them, the Emperor remained kneeling in the rubble, his empire broken, his voice lost. And before the galaxy knew it, a new story had begun, one where a human mechanic, once ordinary, now walked with a Titan at his side.